Caddis Maximus here, this time with a quick review of the AutoZone 70-070 and 70-071. These are the two new sets. They're actually sequential in the part numbers of the triple square as well as the Pentalobe security, I guess, socket sets. It's a little redundant. These are kind of neat. I always kind of like the way Duralast color code stuff, and so they have orange for the triple square and green for the Pentalobe. They use various names on these specialty ones. There's some other names for these triple squares, which are internal 12-point fasteners. And then we have the Pentalobes. Those are not star or Torx. Traditionally, that's what these are, the 6-point. These are 5-point, which have kind of been made notorious because Apple uses a lot of these on their products, like the iPhone. Let's take a closer look at the Pentalobe. They're all security, pin and socket. Pin and socket means that the fastener will have this shape, but then it'll have a little pin sticking out of the top, so you have to have the sockets of the hole drilled in it. So it's kind of neat that AutoZone started selling these, and the only ones that they sell are the ones that are compatible with the security bits or security fasteners, because they will, of course, work on normal ones, and you only lose a little bit of strength with the hole that's drilled in it, versus just totally not being able to work with a security Pentalobe fastener. So I kind of like that aspect of them. This review is, the Duralast sockets are pretty decent quality. I've always liked them. And then they have these two sets of specialty sockets, so I've always appreciated that. I haven't run into anything besides Apple products that use these 5-point, the Pentalobes, but I'm sure I will, and that's kind of the purpose of the tools that I collect, is to increase the number of things that I can work on, get through a wider variety of challenges rather than just having like the best of a particular wrench. I found in my lifetime that it's better to have 5 different sizes of cheap wrenches rather than one good wrench, because if that one good wrench isn't the size that you need, it doesn't do you any good, where you're more likely to have the size that you need if you have 5 cheaper wrenches than if you are always using a particular size quite often. Then you replace the one that you're using the most with a real quality brand. Duralast sockets have always been great, and the other reason I'm doing this review is there's no places that I've seen that have these in stock besides AutoZone, so I kind of impulse purchase them. I always kind of like buying tools in the stores just because I get a look at them, make sure I don't get a set that has some kind of funky defect on one socket that will always bug me. And I'll say these are all pretty nice. Now we can see that these are bits that would have come in some type of bit set, 1/4 inch as well as 10mm hex. And then these are just sockets that they jam the bits in. We know that because the bits were stamped and they just pulled them off the bit line and jammed them into these sockets. And then of course the socket sizes are kind of interesting. Let's pull one of them off again. But they're always this IPR, say 55, so they have the same sizing. They're sized the same way that Torx are, these are, just in 5 lobes. Now this next set, which is this first set, the green with the Pentalobe or the 70-071s, these are the 70-070s, and these are the triple squares. For some reason, I have run into these much more often, particularly on Audi vehicles. They are internal 12-point fasteners. And they're really tough. They're basically the only way you can undo those fasteners is either with an extractor or these sockets, just because there's just so few teeth. The fasteners literally look just like the inside of a 12-point socket, just like that. And like I said, they're commonly on Audis. This is a 9-piece set, where the Pentalobe was an 11-piece set, and they're both $25. I think I forgot to mention that, but I do like how these are colored orange. Another thing I forgot to mention is I like how AutoZone is using these extruded aluminum socket rails, although the end caps are just these, dipped plastic, and they'll eventually work their way off and get loose, and then all these will fall off, so you'd have to just put like a key ring or something through that eye hole. But I really do like these socket strips just because they're really pretty darn rigid, and I wish they'd sell them by themselves. I really do like that a lot. The plastic holders aren't so bad, but one reason I do like these, and I'm going to modify or repurpose, is that these socket holders, there's wide and narrow traditional socket strips or socket rails, and on the wider ones, the same clips will fit onto these. And since they're an actual U-channel, if we can get to focus there, these are socket rails where you could actually use traditional clips and make double-sided socket rails. And I thought, that's a genius idea. That's actually, of all the tool things, having a double-sided socket rail is actually really handy, because you just have more sockets attached to the same place, and you can have metric and standard, or in this situation you could have the pentalobes and the triple squares all on the same rail. You just can't do that with the plastic holders that they come with, because they're too thick to fit two of them opposite each other. You could offset them, but that does take up quite a bit of space. You may just be able to get away with that. We'd have to see. But with the wide traditional clips like those down there, I thought that was just genius. Now, the other thing that I think is pretty darn cool, or is not pretty darn cool, but is interesting, is the sizing of these is metric. But what's kind of odd is, say, this one here, which is advertised as the 12 millimeter, I believe that deals with the inscribed circle, or across the narrow point, or the roots of the points right there. And the reason I say that is that what we have here is a 10 millimeter socket. Well, this next one here is advertised as a 10 millimeter, but this is obviously too big. But the 12 millimeter triple square fits real nicely, perfectly as a matter of fact, in this 12.10 millimeter socket. So that's what makes me think it's the inscribed circle. But I always thought that was kind of interesting about these triple squares, as they really are just like the mirror image of a socket. So anyway, I just wanted to do kind of an up-close review of these specialty sockets, and it seems that AutoZone is the only place that has them. As far as triple square has been in the years past, has been things like these, which have always been awkward to use for the triple square, and I never understood why they came like this, why they're these weird hex adapters. It was kind of like an afterthought. Oh, people need some of these, so they'll machine some hex stock into triple squares. So it's kind of nice to have something that's more standard sockets. I should also mention that on AutoZone's website, they actually started selling OTC brand tools, which are actually really nice. But this same set's $40 on AutoZone's website from OTC, or $25 from Duralast. And the Duralasts are pretty good. Same kind of lifetime warranty. Just take them in if you have an issue. And the other nice thing about these is that they're in stock. So if you run into some issue where you really need these sockets, it's kind of the other part of this review, is to bring awareness that you can go into an AutoZone and pick these up. And that they really are pretty consistent quality. I've always had good luck with the Duralast. Pretty deep roll stamping. It's actually stamped, not laser etched. The color coding, fluted drives, nice good cutouts for the ball retention. AutoZone, really seems that they don't want to go to the cheaper side, where O'Reilly's is going to the cheaper direction of auto stores, kind of like Advance. It seems AutoZone has decided that they would rather compete with Napa on the higher end stuff. Anyway, I'll quit blabbing about these sockets. I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.